in your body that something's not right, I would strongly advise you start listening to that voice and pay attention to that, and schedule a meeting with a family law attorney. And during that meeting, it's going to be really hard and it's going to be upsetting because you're going to have to really reach back into your memories and pull out all of those experiences you've had that you've been trying to not think about, right, for some time. Because when you are a victim in an abusive relationship, and I don't mean to say victim in that you don't have a choice to do anything about it, but when you're in this place where you're in a relationship where you're experiencing abuse, whether it's physical abuse, whether it's emotional abuse, a lot of times you kind of force yourself to forget about these instances. So during that consult with the attorney, we're going to dredge that all up, and it's going to feel scary to you, but it's also going to feel really cathartic because this is probably going to be one of the first times you've really talked to anybody about everything that you've been worrying about and everything you've been dealing with and all of these kind of bizarre behaviors of your partner that you haven't really known where they're coming from and what to do about it. And that's okay. And you might not know what's relevant to bring up. And it's our job to help you, help kind of get everything out of you so we can tell you, whether your situation would, potentially arise to a case of domestic violence. And if it does, then we can talk you through what it looks like to get a temporary restraining order from the court. And it's going to sound scary and very dramatic and something maybe that you don't feel like you should do because, you want to continue to accommodate that person you're with in the relationship. But I would challenge you to at least learn about your options to see whether this could be your path forward to start having a home where you feel safe and where you're no longer living with someone that's disturbing your peace. Some kind of questions we like to ask clients that might be victims of domestic violence in their home are: has there been any physical abuse? And at first you might say no. And then if you really think about it, if your partner has, strangled you, shoved you, hit you, all of these things are, physical abuse. You might think in your head, oh, this person didn't mean it, or it wasn't their intention, or they were just drunk, or they were having a bad day, or they were, mentally not well, or they were struggling with something, or I wasn't perfect, right? I didn't have perfect behavior, so I deserved it. So let's excuse it. But if we take out all of your justification of their inappropriate behavior and their scary behavior, and we just stick to the facts, you might have a case where that would be considered physical abuse or an act of domestic violence where you could obtain a temporary restraining order. A lot of people say that there hasn't been physical abuse, but then when we ask, has he or she ever thrown anything at you? The answer is yes. If your partner has thrown anything at you, even if it hasn't hit you, if your partner's tried to hit you and it's just missed, if that made you feel fearful and like you were in danger, that could be an act of domestic violence. What about emotional abuse? Has your partner threatened you? Has your partner said he or she would destroy you if you ever tried to leave him or her? Does your partner send you erratic barrages of text messages where you can't have a peaceful life? You can't have peace inside your body because you're constantly being barraged by these crazy text messages or phone calls. Does your partner stalk you? And these days, we're all kind of sharing our locations with our significant others, right? There's so many devices these days to kind of stay in touch. But when you're sharing your location with someone that doesn't have your best interest in mind or has these tendencies to kind of want to control you or control where you're at or control what you're doing or control who you hang out with or control what money you're spending or control, how you get to spend time with your kids or not allow you to see your family members, not allow you to see your friends, someone that's trying to assert control over you where you feel powerless, you might have a case of domestic violence where we can help you. It's a pretty nuanced analysis. Also this kind of sexual behavior you've had with your partner can be very relevant. I know it's something that's a pretty sensitive topic that you probably really don't feel like talking to, to another attorney. And that's why, it's important to find a family law attorney you really feel comfortable with and safe with because these kind of conversations are really difficult. But we've obtained a 3-year restraining order over for our client for her ex who was forcing her to, engage in sexual behavior with him and she didn't want to. Even if you're married to somebody, that doesn't mean that you're required to have sex with them or, do other sexual activities with them. You always have the right to say no. So if you're saying no and this person's taking advantage of you, I don't care how silly it sounds or how trite or little or no big deal because it's your husband or it's your wife or whatever it is. Like these things matter, and that could be an act of domestic violence. We had a case where, sending a barrage of texts. I've had a few cases actually where that constituted an act of domestic violence and a restraining order was issued. So I don't want you to think, oh, my case is so small or insignificant. It's probably nothing. I'm just going to live with it or I can handle this, right? A lot of it's, I'm strong enough. I can handle this. I don't need help. I want to challenge you to be strong enough to get help, especially if you have kids. Your kids don't need to be strong enough to endure this, right? Your kids deserve to get help and to get some relief from, someone that's actively engaging in behavior that's disturbing their peace or, causing them to feel, mentally scared and mentally not well, right? So I would strongly suggest you schedule a free case evaluation with my office so that we can match you with the right family law attorney that's experienced handling cases like yours and has gotten great results from the court. If court's needed, right? If it needs to be escalated to litigation, someone that can handle every stage of this process and walk you through it so that you don't feel that terror when you're working with an attorney, right? We give you that state of calm and you can bring that state of calm home and you can feel ready to seek a domestic violence restraining order if you have a case for it in order to have peace. If you need to get a domestic violence restraining order, I want to talk you through what those steps look like. So first, we'll have several meetings with you to really get the full story from you, a full chronological story of everything that's gone on, since you met your, significant other, if you had kids, kind of what that relationship was like, and then kind of what incidents have happened in your life that disturbed your peace, that made you feel afraid. What is it about your partner's behavior or does your partner maybe suffer from a mental health issue? Does your partner have substance abuse issues? What is his or her behavior like? What has he or she done that you believe could arise to domestic violence? We'll do a thorough interview with you to learn all about what's gone on in your life. Once we get that straight from you, if once you feel ready, there's no pressure. If you want to go ahead and get a domestic violence restraining order, we'll go ahead and draft the paperwork needed for the court. That will include a declaration from you, which is a summary to the court on the worst acts of abuse and exactly how that made you feel. How it made you feel is super relevant, right? If it made you feel scared, if you felt scared for your life or your livelihood, if you felt your kids' safety was at risk, we'll need to put all of that in the declaration so the judge can truly understand how severe of a situation you're in and why you desperately need help. We can also include in our declaration a request for financial relief. So if your partner is paying the mortgage on your home, while a restraining order can kick out your partner from the home, if you can't afford to pay that mortgage, this we can ask the court to order that your partner still continue to pay the mortgage or pay, PG&E or whatever bills are on your home that need to be paid. If it's something that you're not already paying for and you need your partner's help with in order to stay in that house and keep the lights on and all that jazz. That can be part of the request for a restraining order. We can also ask for spousal support and child support if that's relevant, and we can ask for legal fees. That is that your partner who we're asking to be restrained pay the legal fees or reimburse you for the fees that you've paid in order to obtain, a domestic violence restraining order. Once we finish drafting all of your paperwork in the declaration, and we'll also have to draft a few different forms that the court requires, which also includes the proposed orders, that we're looking for. We'll submit all of that to the court. Before we submit it to the court, we'll go over that with you really carefully because everything we put in your declaration is we're providing to the court under penalty of perjury. And what that means, it has to be the entire whole truth, right? And I know that, when we're working on these kind of declarations, it's very sensitive and we know it's sensitive and we want to use your words and we want to really correctly describe how you feel because whatever we put in your declaration, if this goes eventually to a trial, you're going to have to testify and tell a judge yes, like this is how I felt, and go into more detail. So we want to spend the extra time needed to get this correct. We don't want to do like a fast job if we don't need to. If you need emergency relief and you need it tomorrow, of course we'll get that done for you. But if you have a little bit more time for us to kind of massage it and then make sure that it's your words, we'd like to do that for you. We submit all your paperwork to the court. Typically within 24 hours, we can send a courier down to the court to pick up the filing to see whether the temporary restraining order has been granted or not. We have had times where the court has taken more than 24 hours, which is super frustrating because you're feeling in danger and we're just waiting. So sometimes it could be 48 hours, but usually, most of the time, it's within 24 hours. We use our courier service, they pick up the packet of information, and then we get the paperwork back. And usually, we can get a temporary restraining order for you. If we feel like you have a good case, usually you do. It's not too hard to get a temporary restraining order in the Bay Area courts if you have good facts to your case. Once we get that temporary restraining order, we will have that served on your ex. It can be served by a police officer for free, or it can be served by a process server. Once your ex is served with that temporary restraining order, your ex will be required under California law to stay away from you, not contact you. If we list your kids as protected parties, to stay away from your kids, to have no time with your kids. And I know it might sound weird to ask for no visitation if your kids are used to seeing your partner, but usually it's this 3-week cooling off period that our state kind of legislature has figured out is a great way where if you're a victim of domestic violence to give you that time to kind of feel like yourself again and decide what you really want to do. So if you're not sure or not whether to give your kids parenting time during this cooling off period, I would suggest you do the no parenting time box just for this cooling off period. So you have some time to figure out what you want to do. Once that restraining order has been served, also on that paperwork, I should tell you it's going to have a court date on it. And that court date is our initial court date where we're going to show up, and it's basically a roll call to tell the judge, hi, we're here and we're part of this family law matter, and we want this set for a hearing down the road so that we can put on evidence to show why you need a restraining order. So that's kind of how that works. In the interim, we can always negotiate a visitation plan for your ex if you want to do supervised visitation, which is having your ex can still have parenting time, but maybe with a supervisor to make sure your kids are safe, if that's what you want to do. Then eventually, we can either negotiate a settlement on your matter, or it can go to court and we can prepare you for trial. And we have lots of experience doing these domestic violence trials. I know it's probably not your number one favorite thing you can imagine doing this year, but if you're being abused, it sounds like it might be something you need. This can feel very isolating and scary if you're a victim of domestic violence. We will do our very best to make you feel comfortable, but sometimes we also recommend you bring a support person with you. If you're going to schedule a strategy session with one of our experienced attorneys, we're happy if you want to have your parent or a good friend attend that strategy session with you. We'll send them a release to sign, and that way, you understand that what it means to include them as part of our attorney-client, communications can really help sometimes to have that support person to, make you feel supported and comfortable during this process and help you decide what you want to do. We believe in giving you all the support and power that you need to help you feel empowered through this difficult time. So if you think you might have a case for domestic violence restraining orders, I would strongly suggest you schedule a free case evaluation with my firm, Fenchel Family Law, and we'll match you with the right attorney and help you get the relief that you need.